He's not looking for pity. He's not looking. What Stephen A. just did with Clay Travis, he just very politely played the race card.
Is it important to you, based on the way the first time ended at ESPN, that you are the highest paid person on ESPN, given the work that you're doing for them? Do you think that should be the case?
Yes. I'm not stuttering. Hell yes. That's absolutely true. Now, I respect the fact if they feel differently. It's not going to be animosity. It's not going to be something where I'm looking at them and I feel like I got screwed. It's a business. And I understand that, and I'm a big boy. But I don't believe it's because of what transpired in 2009. That's water under the bridge. The same bosses that let me go, I'm friends with them now. They explained a lot. They highlighted for me what I did wrong, what role I played. My own mother looked me in the face and said, when are you going to look at yourself? It's real easy to point the finger at them, but you're trying to tell me you didn't deserve, you may not have deserved to be fired, but would you have wanted somebody like you working for you the way you may have acted towards your bosses at that time in 2009? You were a bit out of control. So my own mother told me that. So I don't blame ESPN for that. But here's the thing. I've changed. I've changed for the better. I grew up. And more importantly, I've mastered my own business. In the world of sports television, Clay Travis, I've been number one for 12 years. Come April 1st, we'll mark 12 consecutive years I've been number one. And not only have I been number one every year, I've been number one every week and every month of every year for the last 12 years. You don't get to say that about too many people. I look at whether it's Pat McAfee, it's Mike Greenberg, it's Scott Van Pelt, it's Troy Aikman, it's Joe Buck, it's Kirk Herbstreit, the list goes on and on. I'm so honored to have the colleagues that I have, that I work with at ESPN every day. I look at other people in the business. I got a bunch of friends at FS1. You know what? Michael Irvin's there, Keyshawn, Skip, Richard Sherman, Rob Parker, Chris Broussard. The list goes on and on. Even LaShawn McCoy and Emmanuel Acho and Joy Taylor with her fabulous self. The list goes on and on and on. But let me tell you something. I'm the one that's been number one. And at the end of the day, it would be nice for one day for this man to stand before everyone and be like, this is not, I'm number one, and this says I'm number one.
So he's left off a couple of names there intentionally, very intentionally. And great, Stephen. You're the tallest midget in that time slot. But he's leaving off Tony Kornheiser and Mike Wilbon intentionally. Pardon the interruption has been the gold standard for sports talk TV for 20 straight some odd years. And again, Stephen A. does something different. He's doing a 2-hour block. Those guys have done a half-hour show. But you know, Stephen A.'s acting like he's taking on the murderer's row of competition, and he's not, and he knows that. And so I think he has an argument based off of ESPN's system and who they have paid. I think he has an argument that says, hey, he should be paid more than many of those other guys, if not all of them. But this whole notion of, I've been number one for 12 straight years, I've been this, I've been that. Who you been competing against? Nobody. Skip Bayless over at FS1, a network that was in the first few years just trying to get off the ground. And then here in recent years, Shannon Sharp completely sabotaged the, Skip Bayless. So miss me with all the I've been number one and, Now, does he have an argument that he should be the highest paid guy over at ESPN? Yes. But that ain't the argument.
Well, Jason, I find it interesting. Several things. Number one, I appreciate the honesty. I hate when athletes say it's not about the money. At least he says it's about the money. But don't the media always criticize people that negotiate publicly? But maybe Stephen A. is one of those guys that believes every athlete should be paid a lot. So maybe it's not hypocrisy. But here's the issue. If Stephen A. were to leave the ESPN machine, which is still formidable, it might be declining, but it's still formidable as a platform and a brand. So if he branched out like other people have and just created his own network and platform, would he be number one? I mean, I have seen from the time that I really cared about this, going all the way back to like Craig Kilborn, Dan Patrick, Keith Olbermann, when you use that ESPN launching pad for bigger or different things, it's been a mixed bag. There are some people that have flourished, like Robin Roberts. There are other people that have had to come back to ESPN to rebuild or reshine their star. So I have a question. So if Stephen A. does not like the way the negotiations go and he's number one in terms of getting paid, would he then just say, you know what, I have enough faith in myself, I'm going to do my own thing? Does he actually have the guts to do that?
I think that he does. I think that he's launched his own YouTube channel with that intent in mind. But I'm about to really say something no one's going to expect me to say. I think that he'll have some success with his YouTube channel, and he's having some. And he has developed into a talented personality and sense of humor and all that. But I think when he gets out here in this YouTube world, if he goes that route single-handedly, I think Shannon Sharp's better than him at that. I don't think he would be number one. I don't think he can compete with Shannon Sharp in that lane. And so if that's where everything's headed, and I just don't think he can compete with Shannon Sharp in that lane.
Think about this. When you travel, and you probably travel more than I have, but for people that travel or stay at hotels a lot, when you go into a sports bar or a pub or a hotel, when you don't really know what is always on, when you go to any place in an airport, ESPN. I mean, it is so ubiquitous. When you go to a hotel and you don't know where the channels are, one of the first things, I don't do it anymore, but because it's more NFL Network for me. But for 25 years, the first thing I did is I'm unpacking. I would just have ESPN as my background music as I got settled in. And I'm sure I can't be the only one. We can say what we want about the cord cutting, the loss of influence in terms of cable and satellite, how ESPN has declining ratings and how many homes are not in anymore. All of that is true. But what's also true is that is still an incredibly strong, iconic brand. There is a value to being on that platform. So if he's willing to take that risk, if he's not the A-Rod 2001 on the free agent market, best of luck to him.
I don't think he's going to be forced to do that. I do think ESPN and him will come to a deal. But I'm going to give you another name that in the YouTube space, he won't be able to compete with Pat McAfee. He just won't. And that's not in any way me taking a shot at Stephen A. Smith, because he's already done some good things in the YouTube space. Having Tom Brady on his YouTube show and Tom Brady saying some really provocative things says, hey, Stephen A. is going to be a force over here. But what you're arguing is, let's say Stephen A. wasn't on ESPN at all. Because, again, does he get Tom Brady on his YouTube channel if he's not still connected to ESPN? Maybe not. Because I don't see the synergy there other than, hey, Stephen A's rich, Tom Brady's rich, and we're both in the sports world. But does Tom Brady really like and or care anything about Stephen A. Smith? No. I think Aaron Rodgers has a real affinity for Pat McAfee, and there's a bond there, and that's why Aaron Rodgers has been coming on Pat McAfee's show, plus the money they're paying him. But I'm not, because just take, and Stephen A. is building out his business, and that's why he's doing an interview with Clay Travis. These two guys are there's an inauthenticity to both of those guys, and that's why Stephen A. is on Clay Travis's show trying to reach out to conservatives. But there's no common ground there other than they'll do anything for money and traction. So I find it interesting what he's saying. I think ESPN's going to pay him. I think he'll have success over YouTube because he is a talented guy. But if he had to step out here and really compete off the steroids of ESPN, it's hard. It's hard. And And then it comes down to what are you willing, and he's already proven, he's willing to tell virtually any lie and promote any narrative because over here in this YouTube world, this is a weighted headwind situation depending on what truth you tell. And Stephen A is willing to play that game with YouTube. He'll support the vaccine. He'll support whatever he's supposed to support to get YouTube success. So he'll have some success, but all this beating his chest, I'm number one, you're going to come over here and find out McAfee and Shannon Sharp, Pardon My Take guys, Bill Simmons, Ryan Russillo. There's a lot of guys with strong followings, and Stephen A, his level of expertise on sports just is so weak that I'm not sure if he could topple a lot of these guys that already got a head start on him.
Yeah, and one other issue is, so let's say ESPN offers him a contract that makes him only the second highest paid, and the other guy that's number one is being paid $1 more, but he's not number one, and he says, God, I got to get my respect. They're only offering $12.5 million. I have a question. Does he really think that the person in middle America that has to work double shifts, that just got laid off from the factory, or has to work 2 jobs to support 2 kids making an honest living, is going to have sympathy for him? I'm being dead serious. Like the guy that's a custodian that's scrubbing a toilet is saying, God, dog it, they better give Stephen A his money. Flush, goes on to the next stall. Because I got to tell you, Stephen A. Smith, poor guy, they only offered him. Give me a really? He
ain't looking for pity. He's not looking for pity. He's not looking. What Stephen A. just did with Clay Travis, he just very politely played the race card. He rattled off the names of a bunch of white guys that were making more money than him at ESPN. He's just subtly playing the race card, and ESPN's going to fold and give him the money. And then some woman over there soon, Elle Duncan or Mina Kimes or whatever, is eventually they're going to play the female card. They're paying all these men X amount of dollars. How come none of the women can get that kind of money? It'll just go on, because that stuff works at ESPN. Like what you saw? Hit that like button, subscribe, and check out the full episode by clicking the link below.